There is something unmistakable about ABBA, the music, the flamboyant costumes, the iconic hairstyles. No other group sounds or looks quite the same. After decades of each member following their own path, Benny Andersson remains a true music legend. As one of the creative masterminds behind ABBA, he helped give the world songs that continue to make people sing along and dance generations later. Yet behind the glitter, the stage lights, and the chart-topping success, life was not always joyful or easy. The breakup of ABBA hit deeply, and Benny went through personal and family struggles that most fans never knew about. He chose to keep much of his pain private, letting the music speak on his behalf. Now, at the age of 78, Benny has finally begun to open up, about her, about his past, and about what is truly happening with ABBA today. This is a closer look at Benny Andersson's journey from the very beginning, and what he has finally chosen to confess. Benny Andersson was born on the 16th of December, 1946, in the Vossen district of Stockholm, Sweden. His father, Gösta Andersson, worked as a civil engineer, and his mother was Leila Andersson. Benny grew up alongside his younger sister, Eva-Lise, who was born in 1948. Music ran deeply in his family. Both his father and his grandfather, Ephraim, were accordion players, and their love for music surrounded Benny from an early age. When he was just 6 years old, they bought him his very own accordion and introduced him to Swedish folk music, traditional melodies, and a popular style known as schlager. From that moment on, Benny developed a strong affection for many different kinds of music. The first records he owned reflected this wide range of influences. Among them were Juby's music by Caterina Valente and Elvis Presley's jailhouse rock. He was especially drawn to the song Treat Me Nice on the flip side, mainly because it featured the piano, an instrument that fascinated him. This blend of styles, folk, pop, rock, and melodic piano music, would go on to shape his musical identity for the rest of his life. By the age of 10, Benny had received his own piano and taught himself how to play. He was inspired by musicians such as Brian Jones and quickly developed his own style. School failed to hold his attention for long, and at just 15 years old, he left his studies behind and began performing at youth clubs. Around this time, he met his first girlfriend, Christina Gronvall. Together they had 2 children, Peter, born in 1963, and Helen, born in 1965. In early 1964, Benny and Christina became part of a group called Elvikets Spelmanslag, which loosely translates to the Electricity Board folk music group. The name was meant as a playful joke, referencing their electric instruments. The band mainly played instrumental pieces such as Baby Elephant Walk. During this period, Benny also began writing his first original songs, marking the true beginning of his songwriting journey. A major turning point came in October 1964 when Benny joined the pop band the Hep Stars as their keyboardist. Only a few months later, in March 1965, the band achieved a major breakthrough with their hit song Cadillac. The Hep Stars quickly became one of Sweden's most popular pop bands of the 1960s. Benny soon emerged as not just their keyboard player, but also the main creative force behind their sound, earning fame as both a musician and a teen idol. At first, the group mostly performed cover versions of international hits. However, Benny soon began composing original songs for the band. He delivered several major hits, including No Response, Sunny Girl, Wedding, Consolation, It's Nice to Be Back, and She Will Love You. These songs helped define the band's identity and proved Benny's growing talent for writing unforgettable melodies. In June 1966, Benny met Bjorn Ulvaeus, and the two quickly formed a powerful songwriting partnership. Their first collaboration, Isn't It Easy to Say, was later recorded by the Hep Stars. Benny also worked with Lasse Berghagen, and together they wrote several songs, including Hedge, Clown, which placed second in the 1969 Melodifestivalen, Sweden's Eurovision Song Contest selection. That same event changed Benny's life in another way. He met singer Annifrid Lyngstad, and the two soon became a couple. Around the same time, Bjorn met singer Agnetha Faltskog. These personal relationships naturally led to close musical collaboration among the four, shaping the path towards something much bigger. By 1969, Benny and Bjorn had scored their first major songwriting successes with Ljuva Sextitel for Brita Borg and Spielman for the Hep Stars. As the two couples continued helping one another during recording sessions, the striking blend of Agnetha's and Annifrid's voices convinced Benny and Bjorn to model their work after successful mixed vocal groups of the time. Benny's bond with Annifrid also deepened through music. He produced her 1969 single Peter Pan, and later her debut album Frida in 1971. While Anna-Frid performed in revues and cabaret shows around Stockholm, Agnetha starred in the Swedish version of Jesus Christ Superstar in 1972. By the early 1970s, all four artists were supporting one another's careers, laying the groundwork for the birth of ABBA. The first time all four performed together was in April 1970 during a trip to Cyprus. What began as casual singing on a beach turned into an impromptu concert for United Nations soldiers stationed there. Around the same time, Benny and Bjorn recorded their first joint album, Liquor, with Agnetha and Anna-Frid providing backing vocals. Later that year, they launched a stage act called Festfolket, meaning party people, but also hinting at engaged couples. The act debuted on November 1, 1970, in Gothenburg. Although the show received mostly negative reviews, their performance of Hedge, Gammal Man, Hello Old Man, stood out. Credited to Bjorn and Benny, the song became their first hit together, reaching number 5 on the sales charts and remaining at number 1 on Svensktoppen for 15 weeks. By 1971, the four were working together more frequently, touring and adding vocals to one another's recordings. Benny and Bjorn released more singles, with Agnetha's and Anna-Frid's voices playing increasingly prominent roles. Polar music head Stig Andersson strongly believed that Benny and Bjorn could achieve international success. His encouragement paid off when they entered the 1972 Melodifestivalen with Sag Det med en sang, which placed third and became a Swedish hit. Unexpected success also arrived from Japan, where She's My Kind of Girl reached the top 10 in 1972. The true spark, however, came with the release of People Need Love later that year. Credited to Bjorn and Benny, Agnetha and Anna-Frid, the song showed clear potential. Though it only reached number 17 in Sweden, it charted in the United States and marked the first real step toward ABBA's global breakthrough. In 1973, the group, still using the lengthy name Bjorn and Benny, Agnetha and Anna-Frid, returned to Melodifestivalen with Ring Ring. Producer Michael B. Trato gave the song its distinctive wall of sound style, which would later become an ABBA trademark. Although the song finished third, it became a major hit across Europe and South Africa. That same year, the shorter and more memorable name ABBA was adopted, formed from the first letters of each member's name. In 1974, ABBA returned to Eurovision with Waterloo, a glam rock-inspired song. This time, they won, first Sweden's national selection and then the Eurovision Song Contest itself. Waterloo topped charts across Europe and entered the US top 10, opening doors worldwide. What followed was a remarkable run of success, with hits such as SOS, Mamma Mia, Fernando, and Arrival, which featured the global phenomenon Dancing Queen. From massive tours across Europe and Australia to record-breaking album sales, ABBA became one of the biggest bands in the world. Albums like Velez Vaus and Super Trooper continued their dominance, while songs such as The Winner Takes It All reflected a more mature and emotional tone. Their music reached every corner of the globe, including Latin America through Spanish-language recordings. By the early 1980s, personal changes began to reshape the group. Marriages ended, new relationships formed, and the emotional weight of fame took its toll. In 1981, ABBA released The Visitors, a darker and more reflective album that explored themes of separation, political tension, aging, and lost innocence. Songs like One of Us and When All Is Said and Done marked the final chapter of ABBA's active years. Though the group quietly stepped away from recording together, their legacy never faded. For Benny Andersson, the journey was filled with brilliance, pain, creativity, and silence. Now, decades later, his willingness to finally speak about his past offers fans a deeper understanding of the man behind the music and the truth behind one of the greatest pop groups the world has ever known. With Benny and Frida's divorce becoming public knowledge, rumors quickly began to spread about growing tensions within ABBA. Behind the scenes, the group was struggling creatively as well. By the spring of 1982, they came together once more to begin new songwriting and recording sessions. There was cautious optimism at first, with discussions about producing a brand new album and possibly even embarking on a small tour. However, as May and June arrived, it became clear that the process was far from smooth. The atmosphere was difficult, inspiration was hard to find, and progress was slow. In the end, they managed to record only 3 songs: You Owe Me One, I Am the City, and Just Like That. Benny and Bjorn were ultimately unhappy with the results, feeling the recordings did not meet their standards. As a result, the tracks were shelved, and the group decided to take a break over the summer. By August 1982, their plans had shifted significantly. Rather than continuing work on a new studio album, ABBA chose instead to release a compilation titled The Singles, the first 10 years, timed for the Christmas season. The album would feature all of their greatest hits, along with a small number of new recordings. In the months that followed, they released 2 final single pairings. Between October and December, The Day Before You Came was released with Cassandra as its B-side, followed by Under Attack paired with You Owe Me One. The Day Before You Came performed well across Europe, reaching the top 5 in several countries. However, in the UK, neither it nor Under Attack managed to break into the top 20. Despite this, the compilation album itself was a major success, reaching number 1 in both the UK and Belgium and selling strongly in countries such as Germany and the Netherlands. Ultimately, Under Attack became ABBA's final single before the group quietly disbanded. Years later, I Am the City was officially released in 1993. Just Like That, however, was never released in full, despite persistent fan requests. Portions of the song were later reworked and used in other projects, including the musical Chess. Benny and Bjorn have consistently refused to release the complete ABBA version, even though bootleg recordings have circulated for years. To promote the singles, the first 10 years, ABBA made what would become their final public appearances together. In November 1982, they traveled to London, appearing on shows such as Saturday Superstore and The Late Late Breakfast Show. The following week, they went to West Germany to perform on Show Express. On November 19, 1982, ABBA made their final television appearance in Sweden on the program Nöjesmaskinen. Then, on December 11, 1982, the 4 members performed together for the very last time. This performance was broadcast to the UK via a live link from a TV studio in Stockholm on The Late Late Breakfast Show with Noel Edmonds. It marked the end of an era and closed the chapter on one of the most successful pop groups the world had ever known. ABBA was more than just a band defined by catchy songs and glittering costumes. At its core, it was shaped by 2 real-life love stories. Agnetha Faltskog was romantically involved with Bjorn Ulvaeus, while Benny Andersson shared his life with Annifrid Frida Lyngstad. These relationships added a powerful emotional layer to ABBA's appeal in the early 1970s. Fans were captivated by the idea that the same people singing heartfelt love songs on stage were also couples off stage. Agnetha met Bjorn in 1968 when he was performing with the Hootenanny Singers. They married in July 1971, with Benny playing the organ at their wedding. The couple welcomed their daughter Linda in 1973 and their son Peter in 1977. However, fame placed immense strain on their marriage. Constant touring, relentless pressure, and life in the public eye took their toll. In 1979, at the very height of ABBA's success, Agnetha and Bjorn separated. The breakup deeply affected Agnetha, who later revealed she needed therapy to cope. Reports suggested Bjorn began a new relationship with Lena Callisto shortly afterward. Around this time, Bjorn wrote The Winner Takes It All, which Agnetha famously performed with emotionally charged lyrics such as, "Tell me, does she kiss like I used to kiss you?" Although painful, Agnetha later said the experience was powerful, explaining that she could pour all her emotions into the song. While the couple publicly described the divorce as amicable, Agnetha later admitted that there is no such thing as a truly happy divorce, especially when children are involved. Benny and Frida's story began in 1969, and they were living together by 1971. They did not marry until October 1978, when ABBA was at its peak. Just 2 years later, in 1980, they separated. Benny initially told reporters they remained friends, but the deeper reasons soon became clear. He had met another woman, television producer Mona Norclit, whom he married in 1981. Frida later explained that she and Benny had chosen to be honest about their struggles, saying they had simply grown apart. Like Agnetha and Bjorn, they tried to continue working together in ABBA after their split, but the chemistry had changed. By 1982, both marriages were over, and so was ABBA's golden era. After ABBA ended, Bjorn and Benny remained extremely successful. They went on to create the hit musical Chess, develop Mamma Mia, for both stage and film, and produce music for other artists. Their fame and fortunes continued to grow, eventually making each of them worth hundreds of millions. Agnetha and Frida, however, took very different paths, moving away from the spotlight and facing deeply personal struggles. Agnetha battled severe stage fright, a fear of flying, and the emotional pain of being separated from her children during tours. Her natural shyness and less confident English made public life even more difficult. After her split from Bjorn, She entered several relationships, including one with a psychiatrist who had once tried to save her marriage and another with a detective assigned to protect her children from kidnapping threats. She secretly remarried in 1990 to surgeon Thomas Sonnenfeld but divorced 3 years later. Tragedy followed when her mother took her own life, and her father died the following year. Agnetha withdrew almost completely, avoiding public appearances and even music itself. In one of the most troubling chapters of her life, she entered a relationship with a Dutch fan, Gert van der Groff, who had stalked her for years. The relationship ended badly, leading her to seek legal protection. Eventually, Agnetha moved deep into the Swedish countryside, living in near isolation, famously echoing Greta Garbo's words, "I want to be alone." For many years, she neither sang nor listened to music, until surprising fans in 2004 with the album My Coloring Book, before once again retreating from public life. Frida's life was marked by loss from the very beginning. She was born in 1945 as the result of a wartime romance between her Norwegian mother, Sinni, and a German soldier. Facing public shame, her mother fled to Sweden with baby Frida and her own mother. Tragically, Sinni died of kidney failure at just 21, leaving Frida to be raised by her grandmother. She grew up believing her father had drowned, until a reunion was arranged in 1977. Reflecting on it later, Frida said it was difficult to suddenly have a father at the age of 32. After ABBA, she moved to London and later Switzerland. In 1992, she married German royalty, becoming Princess Annefrid of Rus. More tragedy followed when her daughter died in a car accident in 1998, and her husband passed away from cancer the following year. Frida withdrew from public life, relying on her faith to survive the grief. In recent years, she has found peace and happiness in Switzerland. For decades after ABBA's split, a reunion remained one of music's most frequently asked questions. They turned down countless offers, including a reported billion-dollar deal in the early 2000s. Then, in 2018, everything changed. All 4 members agreed to work together again, leading to the album Voyage, released in 2021. Bjorn described their first day back in the studio as deeply emotional, recalling the warmth, friendship, and bond they all still shared. The reunion also led to ABBA Voyage, a groundbreaking concert experience launched in 2022 in London. Using digital avatars depicting the band in their 1970s prime, the show plays in a purpose-built arena in Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. Featuring classics like Dancing Queen, Waterloo, and Mamma Mia, the production has been a massive cultural and financial success, injecting hundreds of millions into the UK economy and introducing ABBA to a new generation. On May 27, 2025, during the show's 3rd anniversary, Benny Andersson and Frida Lindstad made a surprise appearance. Standing together in the balcony, they were met with thunderous applause. Frida warmly thanked fans for decades of support, while Benny joked affectionately, making the moment feel intimate and full of mutual respect. Their appearance symbolized how, even after decades of change, heartbreak, and renewal, ABBA's story continues, not just through music, but through shared history, reconciliation, and enduring connection. As ABBA Voyage continued its sold-out run in London, it became clear that the group's legacy was no longer frozen in the past. Instead, it was evolving in a way no one could have predicted decades earlier. The digital concert experience was not only a celebration of nostalgia, but also a bold step into the future, blending technology with timeless music. Night after night, fans from around the world gathered to witness a version of ABBA that felt both familiar and astonishingly new. For many, it was the closest they would ever come to seeing the group perform live, while for others, it was a powerful reminder of the joy ABBA's music had brought into their lives over generations. Behind the scenes, Benny Andersson and Bjorn Ulvaeus remained as creatively active as ever. Their partnership, which had survived romantic breakups, public scrutiny, and the pressures of global fame, continued to thrive. In 2025, their influence on musical theater reached another milestone when Mamma Mia and Chess were scheduled to run simultaneously on Broadway. This rare achievement highlighted the depth of their collaboration and the lasting appeal of their songwriting. Mamma Mia, first premiered in London in 1999 before arriving on Broadway in 2001, had already become one of the most successful musicals of all time. Seen by over 70 million people across 50 productions in 16 languages, it earned its place as Broadway's 9th longest-running show, with 5,773 performances over 14 years and box office earnings exceeding $7 billion. Its return to the Winter Garden Theatre for a limited run from August 2, 2025, to February 1st, 2026, felt less like a revival and more like a homecoming. At the same time, Chess, the ambitious musical originally created in the 1980s, re-emerged on the Broadway stage. Having both productions running concurrently was a powerful statement, underscoring how Benny and Bjorn's creative bond had not only survived ABBA's breakup but had grown stronger with time. Their work continued to bridge generations, introducing younger audiences to music that had once defined an era while still resonating deeply with longtime fans. Meanwhile, Agnetha Faltskog and Annifrid Lyngstad remained more selective about public appearances, choosing moments that felt meaningful rather than obligatory. Their presence, when it occurred, carried emotional weight. Fans understood that these women had given much of themselves to ABBA during its peak years and had paid a heavy personal price. Their quieter lives were not signs of withdrawal but reflections of resilience, shaped by loss, healing, and hard-earned peace. When they did step back into the spotlight, even briefly, it felt like a gift rather than a performance. What makes ABBA's story so enduring is not just the extraordinary success or the record-breaking achievements, but the deeply human experiences behind them. Love, heartbreak, ambition, exhaustion, reinvention, and reconciliation all played a role in shaping the band's journey. Few groups have allowed their personal lives to be so openly intertwined with their art, and even fewer have managed to emerge decades later with dignity, mutual respect, and a shared sense of history. In the end, ABBA did not fade away or burn out in scandal. Instead, they stepped back, lived their lives, endured their losses, and eventually returned on their own terms. Their reunion was not driven by money or pressure, but by trust, friendship, and a genuine desire to create once more. The music that once accompanied breakups, divorces, and emotional strain now stands as a testament to survival and renewal. ABBA's legacy, still unfolding, proves that endings are not always final. Sometimes, they are simply pauses, moments of silence before the music begins again, carrying with it the echoes of everything that came before and the promise of something still to come.